I'm here. Just swallowing my last piece of toast, friends. I love that apple juice. Welcome back to the American Breakfast Program. My name is Stan Major. And Pat Buchanan, she was supposed to be joining us at the bottom of the hour, right after the news. You think he'll make it, Tim, or do you think that he, at the last minute, got a call from MSNBC and has to do a special appearance, which is going to X out us radio guys? Who was it that did that? We were supposed to have somebody on one of those big wheels, and they canceled out because he got a TV thing. One of those guys that does a syndicated show, talk show.
I'm not sure.
All right.
We need to start rehearsing more.
Right. Let's throw out some trivia for this 25 minutes, see if we can get a call from Buck or Jim out in Utah or somebody. 1-877-977-6100, or maybe the nice lady in Natick, or maybe the nice lady in Sarasota will call us. What is the most claustrophobic job in the U.S.? What is rated the most claustrophobic job in the U.S.? Being a pilot? Being a telephone booth repairman? Being an elevator operator? Or being an astronaut?
Being bored up on Stan Major's show.
There you go. I just want to make sure I'm on the right page here for the answers, folks. I don't want to screw up again, okay? Let's double check this here. Make sure, yep, odds and ends. This is odds and ends. I'm on the right chapter. The most claustrophobic job in the U.S., being a pilot, an elevator operator, an astronaut, or a telephone booth repairman. I don't know where they got telephone booth repairman. That's kind of stupid, in my opinion. Janet Jackson has what cartoon character tattooed on her body? Donald Duck? Jerry the Mouse? The Roadrunner? Beep Beep? Or Mickey Mouse? We couldn't tell at the Super Bowl, could we, boys and girls? We could not get that close. Which of these quiz shows was the first to air? Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? The $64,000 Question? 21? Or Jeopardy? Which of these quiz shows was the first to air? Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Well, you know it wasn't that one, right? So you got to take a choice between the $64,000 Question, 21, or Jeopardy. We'll be back. Oh, it's my turn already again? How about that, sports fans? Do you want to give away 80 cents a day? Well, if you're going to do that, give it to somebody that can really use your help, a little girl or boy, through the Christian Children's Fund. Call the toll-free number I'm going to give you and see how much just 80 cents a day can provide for a needy child. That's 80 cents that you will never miss. Food, clothing, school books, proper medical care, whichever is needed the most. Now, here's what you do. You call 1-800-506-4242. I'll repeat the number in a second. In about 10 days, you'll receive a life story and photo of a child who needs your help, the actual child who will get your help. Then you make up your own mind to simply give a chance of healing and hope. All it takes to become a Christian Children's Fund sponsor is 80 cents a day and a place in your heart for a child who needs you. So make a difference. Call Christian Children's Fund at 1-800-506-4242. Got it? 1-800-506-4242. And if you'd like to call us, you can do that right now at 1-877-977-6100. We got 15 minutes, so get your call in immediately.
We got Alan on I-15 in Utah.
Hey, Alan, how are you doing?
All right, how are you?
What's going on out there? How's your weather?
Oh, not too bad. A lot better than it was last night.
What, was it raining last night or foggy?
Mostly wind, a little snow.
A little snow on 15?
Just between Beaver and Nephi, yeah.
Wow, okay. You want to take a shot at this trivia this morning?
Yeah, let's give it a shot.
Okay, all right. What was rated the most claustrophobic job in the U.S.? Being an airline pilot, an elevator operator, an astronaut, or a telephone booth repairman?
I'd say elevator operator.
That's a good guess, but according to my answer, that's not right. Let's take another. Let's try another one here, okay?
All right.
Which of these quiz shows was the first to air? The $64,000 question, 21, or Jeopardy?
I've never heard of 21, so I'll guess that one.
You don't remember 21?
No, it must have been before my time.
Yeah, well, that could have been since you're only, since you're a young whippersnapper there. Let's try this one. No, you didn't get that one right either, but you still got two chances, okay?
Okay.
Janet Jackson has what cartoon character tattooed on her body? Donald Duck, Roadrunner, Mickey Mouse, or Jerry the Mouse?
I don't know. Let's try Roadrunner.
No. Listen, what can I tell you? What can I tell you?
I'm good at guessing wrong, ain't I?
You have to. We should send you a CD for being the best wrong guesser on the show.
I'm real consistent. Yep.
Where are you headed?
Hurricane.
You're going to Hurricane, huh?
Yeah.
That's where they have that movie ranch down there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You ever go? Have you ever?
Cedar City.
Pardon me?
I just left Cedar City. Talked to Buck for a minute or two there.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm glad that he's out doing his job, and I hope you guys don't get any more snow. Heaven's sakes, it's coming up on spring, isn't it?
Yeah, we had spring day before yesterday, though.
Yeah. Good.
Winter again yesterday.
Well, you drive carefully, okay?
Will do.
Good to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you. Thanks.
Nice man. Lousy at trivia, but hey, I'm lousy at trivia too. Don't feel bad, okay, buddy? Don't feel bad at all. I never won anything in my life. Oh, yes, I did. When I was in high school, I wrote a one-page essay, and I got about Superman. And I then got passes every Saturday to go see the movies. How about that? That's the last thing I ever won.
Pretty good prize, too.
Isn't that incredible? Boy, that takes you back. I'm surprised I can even remember that. Now, part of the New World Order, which Pat Buchanan is a big fan of course, you know, is the World Trade Organization, which has decided that it has the right now to dictate to you and me. Somebody sitting over there in Europe has the right to dictate our life. And they say that the cotton farmers are not going to get subsidies anymore because it's not fair for us to pay subsidies to our own farmers. Now, what right does some panel of 3 Europeans sitting over there in Europe have to tell me that I can't get a subsidy from my own government? You know what I would tell the WTO, don't you? Stuff it where the moon don't shine. But they did make a ruling which eventually could affect all farm subsidies in this country. We have a lot of farm subsidies, folks. And it's part of this New World Order stuff where Washington isn't in charge anymore. It's a bunch of people that were never elected by us that we don't know who they are, some mysterious world organization of the New World Order that's sitting over there and deciding whether or not people in this country are going to continue to farm, you know, be it cotton or soybeans or cattle or pork or peanuts or sugar or whatever. This is part of the New World Order. This is part of this free trade crap that is creeping up on us year by year, and which is going to take over on behalf of the Bilderbergs and the New World Order. Now, it is nice, again, to walk into a store and buy a CD player for $1.50, made by slave labor in China. But come on, people, there has to be a line someplace, all right? We'll be back. This should make you feel better, boys and girls. The Treasury Department, entrusted with blocking the financial resources of terrorists like Oswami bin Laden, told Congress that at the end of last year it had just 4 full-time employees dedicated to investigating Oswami and Saddam's wealth. But this will make you feel better. This will make you feel safer in your home if you live in Miami. They have 24 people working on Cuban embargo violations. Whoa, wait a minute here. The Treasury Department has 4 people working on terror financing. But they have 24 people working on Cuban embargo violations. Oh, God. You believe that? That is unbelievable. Yes, they're making a slow adjustment from the Cold War against communist Cuba, which we all know is threatening everybody. Castro is threatening America with those big black stogie cigars from Cuba. Don't buy those. No, sir. We'll have a handle on those Cuban embargo violations, boy. We got 24 full-time people working on that. But we have a real hassle trying to find enough people to work on terrorism financing. We've only got 4 for that. Oh, jeez. Strange but true. Your government is something else. This is akin to the fence I keep talking about that the Coral Springs Police Department got here about 10 blocks from where I'm sitting to protect them from the evildoers. The evildoers are going to come and attack the Coral Springs Police Department. So they got a big white fence they put up. It's one of these fences that you have in front of a subdivision that you can't get in when you're not the right kind of person. You know, if you're black or you look scraggly, we're not going to let you come in and drive around our subdivision. It's that same kind of fence. It's protecting the police department from the terrorists. And we paid for it. And, of course, if we paid for it for the Coral Springs Police Department, it boggles the mind to think of how much money was wasted across the country putting up stupid fences in front of police departments to keep the evildoer people like, the Muhammad Adas of the world from crashing into that building and attacking those police departments. 4 people working on checking and tracing the finances of Oswami and Saddam. Terror financing. 4 people in the Treasury Department working on that. 24 people working full-time, making sure that you and I don't get a box of real Cuban cigars. Okay? So feel safer in your home, boys and girls. Your Treasury Department is hard at work. Your government is hard at work on your behalf, protecting you from anything made or done on the island of Cuba, which we all know is a real threat to the safety and the well-being of every American. But it gets votes in Miami, boy. It gets votes in South Florida. And that's what it's all about. All right, we're scheduled to have Pat Buchanan with us right after this short news break coming up in about 3 or 4 minutes, so stay tuned. If you want to email me your comments, you can do that. stanmajor@aol.com. Back to the American Breakfast Show. I'm Stan Major, coast to coast, on radio stations everywhere and also on the cable radio network and on the internet around the world. And it is a pleasure and an honor to introduce a man who I supported a few years ago to become president of the United States, and I wish he was running again and maybe having Lou Dobbs as his vice presidential candidate, Patrick J. Buchanan. Pat, good morning.
Hi, Stan. How are you?
All right. Why aren't you running, man? We need you.
Well, if you ran, I think you would. I've thought of it, but we have no party out there. The Reform Party was pretty much busted up after we didn't do well at all in the year 2000, so you'd had to go out and get out on the ballot. And I think you could have made the case, but I don't think you'd have had any other effect than to draw votes off and help elect John Kerry, and I'm not sure that's the solution to the country's problems.
So we know how you feel about Nader's candidacy already.
Well, no, Ralph, I understand Ralph, and I respect him, and Ralph is going to take up this war issue, I think, and he's going to take up our issue on trade. He won't take up the immigration issue, which I wish he would. But I respect and like Ralph, and more power to him. I think that Ralph's going to have real trouble getting on the ballots of the 50 states the way we did in the year 2000, and I'm not sure he's going to do as well as he had hoped to do, but I respect and like Ralph personally. We fought together in the battle against NAFTA and GATT and the World Trade Organization.
Let's deal with Iraq first, and then let's get into the free trade issue. Iraq is going to be Bush's Vietnam. I'm feeling, Lyndon Johnson here all over again.
I think you're right first, it's not Vietnam in the sense we're not going to lose 58,000 guys over there. In Vietnam, we lost 150 guys killed every week for 52 weeks a year for 7 years. That's not going to happen. The American people will demand the Bush pull out before we lose that many people trying to build, quote, a democracy, unquote, in Iraq. I do think that when you see comparisons to Lyndon Johnson, it's correct. You've got this sort of nebulous goal now that we've dethroned Saddam Hussein and gotten rid of his regime, and whatever weapons he had, he doesn't have anymore. Now that we got Americans fighting in Fallujah and Najaf to bring democracy to these folks, supposedly, I think the American people are saying, look, if this is where they're going to react to our presence, let's get out and let them build their own government. We don't care what kind of government they have. So I think the president has a real problem here. And frankly, I think he is probably looking right now for an exit ramp. And that exit ramp may be giving these folks the power to elect whomever they wish, and they'll be electing people who tell the Americans to go home.
Does the UN take over the responsibilities here? Is that the way you get out?
I think the UN is. I think it is hopeless, and it is utopian and naive to think that the UN can succeed where the United States did not. I think what Brahimi's going to do, this Algerian, he's going to put in a bunch of technocrats who are going to have no real standing, but who will be demanding certain restrictions be put on the American military, and the military won't stand for it, and Americans aren't going to take American troops under UN command. So I think that to the degree that they're given any power and authority in Baghdad, this new Brahimi government, I think the American people will be demanding that we bring our troops home.
How did you feel about the invasion in the first place?
I was opposed to the war. I fought against it for a year. I thought the president had done a brilliant job putting together a global coalition to take down the Taliban and run down bin Laden and al-Qaeda, and I thought the war on terror worldwide was going well for the first 6 months, but when the president got up and said there's an axis of evil and Iran, Iraq, and North Korea, and indicated we were going to invade Iraq, I fought it for an entire year. I said it was the wrong war in the wrong place at the wrong time, that Saddam was not a mortal threat to the United States, that there was no evidence he was behind 9/11, and that we would wind up inheriting our own Lebanon, our own West Bank, and our own Gaza Strip, 25 million Iraqis, and that it would turn out to be a much more difficult affair than the neoconservatives were then predicting. And we said so in every issue of the American Conservative magazine. That was one of the reasons we started the American Conservative magazine. And we said so, and frankly, unfortunately, we've been proven right.
Yeah, you have, very definitely. And it's pretty incredible. I keep saying that the whole damn country is not worth one good American life. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. It's, in us running it, we're not an imperial power. We're a great, wonderful republic. And we've gotten away from the founding fathers, who are some of the wisest men that ever lived. And Washington told us when he formed this country, avoid permanent alliances. And Jefferson said, avoid these entanglements and avoid, passionate attachments to countries not our own. Stay out of wars that are none of America's business, and we will do well. And America, by and large, has followed that advice. And those of us after the Cold War was an exception. And after the Cold War, we had a debate among conservatives as to what our foreign policy should be. And it was my view that we ought to return to the foreign policy advocated by the founding fathers and not interfere in the internal affairs or the wars or the quarrels of countries that did not represent any threat to the republic. And had we done so, I think we would be far more we would be looked upon far more favorably today by nations and peoples all over the world than we are right now, and we certainly would not be embroiled down in what looks like a no-win war in Iraq.
The Cold War was vastly different, Pat, because it was a direct threat to us. The missiles, well, they're still aimed at us, I know that, but at the time, they were even in Cuba. I mean, the threat, we were building bomb shelters out in the back of the house.
Well, you are exactly right. At the end of the World War II, it became quite clear that Stalin, the Soviet Empire, and the whole communist Soviet enterprise had as its main enemy the United States of America. Stalin betrayed every promise he had made to the Americans in World War II. He gobbled up Eastern Europe. He used subversion and threats and assassinations and overt invasions and
okay, Pat, hold the thought.
Us.
Pat, hold the thought. We'll be right back. You know how this works. We'll be back with Pat Buchanan on Stan Major. Don't go away. Stan Major back on the American Breakfast Show, coast to coast, with Patrick J. Buchanan. We could go on about Iraq because I'll never stop on it on this show, I'll tell you that. But I want to talk about free trade, and one of the Bibles of this program over the years has been Dr. Ravi Batra's The Myth of Free Trade. Are we losing the battle here? What's going on? Now I see a bunch of Mexican farmers are protesting in Mexico City. They're against free trade. And I thought, isn't that hilarious?
Well, I understand why the Mexican farmers are. See, under free trade, the United States, extraordinarily productive in our agriculture, is dumping all this food down there, and it's destroying their livelihood. And so the Mexican farmers and farm workers who are put out of business, they come to Mexico City and they find the welfare there is not all that attractive, and so they head for Los Angeles. And so, and you got a good deal in Los Angeles, Stan.
I know. Did you hear about the commissioner in Idaho who sent the Mexican consulate a bill for millions of dollars? I thought that was hilarious.
Well, they've still got some good guys out in Idaho. They're going to get him on a hate crime, I can tell you that.
I know that. That's absolute fact. All right, here's the Stan Major solution, Pat. January 1st of the year 2007, we build the wall. We say, if you want to sell it in our great country, you'll manufacture it and make it here.
Let me tell you how you could build a wall without using the materials which ought to be used on the southern border to build a fence down there. Exactly, you're exactly right, Stan. Here's what you do very simply, though. Take manufacturing goods from abroad. I've talked to my buddy of mine who he's a fellow that must be in his late 80s now, worked for General Motors, and he's figured out that 50% of the cost of a new car made in the United States is in taxes, Social Security taxes on workers, or federal withholding, state withholding, corporate taxes, sales taxes. What you do is you take a car, say, made in Korea, and it sells for $20,000 here. You add 50% of that's $10,000. You put a $10,000 tariff on a 50% tariff on all manufactured goods coming into the United States. You take the revenue from that and eliminate all taxes on manufacturing in the United States. This would be an enormous incentive for those companies that have moved abroad to get their butts back home and start building factories here, because they would lose all the advantage they had gotten by going abroad, and you would have an enormously attractive domestic place to build your cars. For example, Mercedes, instead of building any more cars in Germany to sell them in the United States, would build them down there at its plant in Alabama. So Americans would get the jobs, get the experience, and German money would come in, and we would get the technological experience, and Americans here could still buy a Mercedes, but it would be made in the USA.
Now, have you outlined this in a book that my listeners can buy?
I sure have, The Great Betrayal. It is the book I did on trade, and I had it out nationally, and it's got the best history of the trade wars in the United I think's ever been written, because I reviewed over 100 books when I wrote it. Trouble was, Stan, it came out I was on the road. It came out just at the time Clinton announced that he had not had sex with Monica Lewinsky. And every show I went on, they'd say, Pat, we're going to get to this trade issue real fast, but what do you think's on the dress?
Or what do you think kind of cigar they used, right? Incredible.
Exactly. So it did not get the attention I had hoped, but it did well. It didn't do as well as my other books, because it was this Lewinsky thing that I had to talk about every place I went when I went out on the road for 6 weeks.
That's a shame.
But listen, I'd be happy to send you a copy of this book, and I think if you read it, especially the history chapters in the philosophy and history of American trade and tariffs, you will find that every great American came to the same conclusion that Stan Major did.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been thinking about this for a long, long time. I've had Ravi Batra on my show on numerous occasions, and the man just makes a lot of sense. And I don't know. I know that he's a competitor of yours now, Lou Dobbs, but you must have.
I think Lou's doing a wonderful job, and I think I watch him at night. I think he's doing a great job on immigration. He's doing a wonderful job on exporting America.
How can he do this on CNN? How don't you? I mean, you felt the pressure before and things you said about free trade. I mean, good Lord, you dial up Washington, D.C. information and ask for the number for NAFTA, and there's an organization called NAFTA.
I think what Lou has got, he's got a good contract.
Okay.
He's got one of those ironclad, no-cut contracts. You give me the store if you fire me.
Man, I'll tell you.
But he's doing a wonderful job. And let me say something else. A friend of mine, Paul Craig Roberts, worked in the Treasury. Was a supply sider, helped architect.
Hold the thought, and I promise you we will go right back to the thought this time, okay? Pat Buchanan is my guest, up to the top of the hour. I'm Stan Major of the American Breakfast Show. Stan Major back with Pat Buchanan. I have a couple of minutes left here. Go ahead and continue where we left off with Craig Roberts, but then I have to put you on the spot about what happened after the New Hampshire primary, and that gets involved in the electronic voting thing, I'm afraid. I've always had this. I'm a conspiracy guy, okay, Pat? About Craig Roberts.
All right, Craig Roberts has become a real battler for fair trade policy, and he's analyzed the so-called free trade, and he said it's not really trade at all. We're transferring the factors of production overseas, and that is not trade. It is the export of the basic elements of the American economy.
Well, it's the Bilderberg idea, Pat, that never worked. The Bilderberg idea of sharing the wealth with the poor of the world, it's not working.
The truth is, Stan, it is working the way they want, which is to dispossess the Americans and the West and create basically a socialist world where all workers have equal incomes, and the only way you achieve that is by putting a lid on American wages and holding them so they don't go up, and help the wages of third world workers rise, and take all of America's manufacturing capacity and move it around the world. I think the Bilderbergers are their little project is well underway, to be honest. I think they know exactly what they're doing. Really
scary. Now, what happened after New Hampshire? You were on a roll after New Hampshire. You won the primary. Okay. History dictated that anybody who won the New Hampshire primary went on to win the nomination, but not with Pat Buchanan. I know, we can talk about the media. We can talk about all that. But did you ever do any investigation into Arizona voting? Because I have had so many people from Arizona and California complain about results of their elections that this electronic voting thing just stinks to high heaven.
Well, it blew my mind, because I understand the governor of Arizona and Senator McCain were preparing letters of congratulations to me for winning the Arizona primary. And I also had heard when we were out there that voting machines were taken out at noon and brought back at 2 o'clock in some precincts out there in Maricopa County and Tucson, and I didn't know what to make of it, but there was also clearly the factor that Forbes, whom I had beaten, who had run fourth in Iowa and New Hampshire, normally a candidate drops out. He had all that money, so he simply put $4 million into advertising in Arizona.
But that
and so what that did was drain off the anti-establishment vote, which would have gone to me against Dole. I think I would have beaten Dole in Arizona if Forbes had not put all that money in. He didn't have a chance to win, but he had invested an awful lot. He got 20,000 absentee ballots opened on election night because for 60 days beforehand he had been putting all that money in there. And so what happened is the anti-establishment vote was divided between me and Forbes, and it was a three-way finish, and Forbes came in first and Dole second and Buchanan third, and I knew our momentum, which we had to maintain, we had to beat Dole a second time, was gone. It was a sad night. I remember I was in Marietta, Georgia when I got the news.
It was a very disappointing thing, and it would have been fabulous if you'd have kept that momentum going and kept winning, because you're tilting at windmills, Pat, but God love you for it.
Well, as I told somebody, if you think it's rough running against City Hall, try running against Uncle Sam.
Pat, let's do it again, okay?
Okay, it was a delight. Listen,
Thank you.
Put your fellow on, and I'll send you a copy of this book of mine. You'll love it.
All right, Tim, you give him the information, okay? Everybody have a fabulous day.